Palantir Technologies has been one of my most interesting investments of 2023. And in the past year, it's gone up over 145%, meaning I've already more than 2x'd my money on Palantir. My cost basis is something like $6 and change, and today's trading price is almost $17. I'm going to go over a little bit about why Palantir was so low in early 2023 and why suddenly midway through the year it started to take off, and get into my expectations for what could happen in 2024, as well as what I think a current reasonable valuation might be for Palantir after owning it for about 1 year. Welcome to the Fiscal Philosophy YouTube channel. I'm a value investor and I have shares of Palantir. Just because I have it doesn't mean it's right for you. Now, let's get into the video. I'm sure those of you that haven't seen my previous Palantir videos are probably wondering, what is a value investor like this guy doing investing in Palantir? I thought value investors only got into cigar butt stocks and falling knives, and they don't understand technology or growth or anything like that. Well, to that I would say growth is simply a component of value, and I think it's possible, if you can envision a certain level of growth in a business and assign an appropriate multiple based on that growth, I think you can say that growth stocks can be value stocks. And Palantir does have consistent and strong growth in their business. And basically what happened was it reached a certain price where I felt and believed, based on the information I had, that it could generate a solid return based on the future stream of cash flow it would produce at the price it was selling, with the growth that I could see the business realistically doing going forward. And just because I like Palantir and liked it enough to have a small position doesn't mean that it's without any flaws whatsoever. For example, value investors like myself generally don't love a lot of share dilution, and there is some share dilution going on here with Palantir. That being said, the numbers reached a certain inflection point where I thought, even in spite of this, I thought it could bear a little bit of share dilution going forward and still overall generate a reasonable amount of shareholder value with the numbers that I thought they might be able to pull off in the years ahead. I definitely believe my downside was certainly minimal with regards to getting involved in Palantir, as they have a strong balance sheet that's extremely heavy on cash and equivalents with almost no debt. This means that the chances of them going bankrupt is incredibly small. And you pair that with the high level of growth that they have, the contracts they were winning, and you can start to see why it was starting to look appealing to me in spite of a little bit of share dilution. Now, they also boast positive cash flow in addition to already having a strong cash position. As you can see, they have a pretty good streak of positive free cash flow going, and as of the most recent results, it has started to grow bit by bit, which is definitely what you want to see. As an investor, you want to see a growing stream of cash flow if you're buying into a growth business. When it comes to a price for Palantir, analysts are, well, they're shooting a pretty wide spread here, with some saying $5, some saying $25. And here's the thing, Palantir is super volatile. Its price could see both of those prices, honestly, in the next 12 months or anything in between. Or, maybe it could soar even higher. It's the kind of stock that could just do that. But my own personal sense a year ago was that anything below maybe $7 was probably pretty good based on what I was projecting as far as what they might be able to do in terms of their free cash flow and free cash flow growth over the coming years. So I do categorically disagree with the $5 price target, at least as far as it being a reasonable value. I do think that that's actually undervaluing Palantir at this point in time. But at the same time, I do think 25 is overpriced. I don't think it's actually worth that amount of money. And if a year ago I thought paying under 7 was good, hopefully today I would think that maybe it's worth a bit more than that, which I probably do. We'll get into where my sense of the valuation is at this point. And I do think it is going to be higher than the 7 from before. But I also don't think a reasonable valuation will be really all that close to the 25 mark. I think that's a bit over optimistic, and that's probably more of a momentum thing where enthusiasm could reach a high again and it could peak that high at some point. But I'm not really into chart reading, so we'll go into the valuation. So in this DCF model, I've used a 12.5% discount rate, and this is because Palantir is, in my mind, a pretty speculative position still in my portfolio. I have to count on them executing and continuing to grow at a pretty high level in order to realize a good return on this. So I'm using a higher discount rate, and I'm assuming, that they're going to grow the bottom line 15% as a compound annual growth rate over the next 10 years. Now, for the next handful of years, analysts are estimating growth on the bottom line of 20% or more. But I think over a longer stretch, like a decade, 15% is probably a little bit more realistic. And, here's the thing, they could fall short of that, or they could greatly exceed it. That's why, because they could fall short of that, I've used a higher than normal discount rate. It's a little bit margin of safety there. Now, it's higher now, the number I'm getting, this $8.02, than the price that I came up with a year ago, which was, about $7, or I thought under $7 was probably kind of reasonable. So today, if it were to drop to 8 or below, I would start looking at maybe considering getting some more shares in my portfolio. And you may also be asking, hey, if it's this overpriced, how come you're not selling? Well, what I'm doing is I'm selling out of the money covered calls while it's this overpriced. The volatility means the premium is quite good, and that does, put some cash in my pocket, lets me realize some of the gains without necessarily getting rid of my shares. Because let's face it, it could be that Palantir greatly exceeds my expectations and actually does become worth $15, $18, $20. So I'm generally not in a hurry to sell out of it, but I do want to, generate some cash back into my pocket on the position while it is so, so much above where I think a rational market would put it at the moment. And, give myself some room to realize some more upside if it does rip higher. But, if it went really high and got called away, I wouldn't cry. I personally think that covered calls are a great way to generate some cash back into your pocket without selling when you think a stock is getting to be a bit stretched on the valuation. And if you sell it out of the money, you're still leaving some room for it to run a little bit more to the upside without losing your shares in the process as well. So I kind of think it gives the best of both worlds if you have at least 100 shares to do it with. Let me know in the comments what you think Palantir is worth. Also, before we end the video, I want to mention, while I don't have the most granular understanding of the technology that Palantir uses, I do know that they continually win contracts and contract extensions with very large, very high budget organizations and government agencies. And I think that this shows that what they have definitely offers a certain level of value to the marketplace. And what I'm doing as a shareholder and an investor is simply judging them based on how well they convert that valuable product into shareholder value, basically. That's really all I'm doing. I'm not really judging them for the quality of the technology. I think the marketplace is showing their technology has value. But feel free to chime in and let me know if you agree or disagree with that sentiment. If you made it to the end, you are a real one. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you're not already. Hit the notification bell, be alerted of my videos. Hit that like button to help me out in the YouTube algorithm. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at Mr. Macho Mog. Join the Discord, link in the description, of course. Also, consider becoming a channel member to support me financially. And remember, catch me 8 p.m. Eastern every Saturday, Cashflow Kings Live.